Hi, welcome to the Bronx Museum's AIM Fellowship Info session. This is being recorded and will be shared on our website at the conclusion of this session. Um, I'm Patrick Rowe, I'm the Director of Education and Public Engagement. I'm joined by Nell.
I'm Nell Klugman, the Associate Director of Education and Public Engagement.
So just to go over the agenda, we're going to talk about the AIM Fellowship generally, and then we're going to talk about the application process. And then we'll take questions in the chat at the end of the going through the application and about the fellowship. The Bronx Museum was founded in 1971 as a contemporary art museum located in the South Bronx. The AIM Fellowship, also known as Artists in the Marketplace, was established in 1980 as a professional development program for New York City-based artists. And since 1980, AIM has helped support the careers of over 1,200 artists. And just as a reminder, the AIM application is due on October 27th at 11:59 p.m., which is a Sunday. And Nelly, you wanted to start by talking a little bit about the AIM Fellowship.
Yes, and also just a reminder, presumably if you're here, you have some way of finding out what's happening at the Bronx Museum. But if you aren't already, we encourage you to sign up for the Bronx Museum's newsletter, as well as follow us on social media at Bronx Museum. And you'll find reminders about deadlines like the AIM application one there. But the AIM Fellowship Program is a flagship educational program for early career artists at the Bronx Museum. Mentored by a distinguished faculty of industry experts, AIM Fellows engage in a 9-month-long series of intensive seminars and activities covering a wide range of topics, including finance, law, media management, and writing, among others, that aid artists in building sustainable studio practices while expanding peer and professional networks. So AIM, importantly and distinctively among programs for artists, is not a studio program. It is really an educational and community building program where artists come together in a seminar format to learn about professional skills and practices that we've found throughout the past 45 years and through our experience for the past 5 or so years is really missing in the current artistic climate. The capstone of AIM is a free public convening designed and co-facilitated by the AIM Fellows. Through the convening, the fellows have the opportunity to share the valuable knowledge and skills they gained throughout the 9-month AIM program with a wider community of artists and creatives, thereby establishing them as thought leaders in the field. Additionally, a group exhibition with a theme established by the Bronx Museum will be held roughly every 2 years. The group exhibition aligns with the overall AIM program goals of advancing artistic careers and developing professional skills as artists.
Thanks, Nell. And some of what we talk about will be a little bit redundant, and also most of this can be found on the museum's website. That gives a lot of detail about the program and its history. As Nell mentioned, it's not a studio program. Our program follows a syllabus with many different learning objectives. Um, it is a 9-month program. It used to be much shorter. We expanded it to cover 9 months based on feedback that we had from artists over the years. But a cohort of 14 artists begin with an introductory 5-month foundational seminar uh, term, which is roughly from February to June. And so during that time, the cohort of AIM fellows meet weekly. Our meetings are on Tuesdays, generally from 6 to as late as 9 p.m. here at the Bronx Museum. And then some examples of some of the sessions that the program offers during the initial period of the program include subjects like art writing, including art statements, grant writing, communication and marketing strategies, um, the curator-artist relationship, financial literacy, things as detailed as like hiring people to work in your studio or filing your taxes, for example, budgeting, things like that. And then also we've expanded to having workshops on working in community, given that a lot of the artists that we have had as fellows work in socially engaged practices and work within communities, as well as audience development. And then importantly, another session that's been in the program for a long time is an art law section. So thinking about legal issues that come up as an artist. And then what we do at the end of the first term is have a very in-depth survey with our AIM fellows who give us ideas to then create the second part of the program, which has a number of components, including special topic seminars based on the survey data we get back. So if the artist in a given cohort express an interest, for example, in working on archiving their work or documentation, or even want to have the opportunity to visit with more galleries at different levels in the art world or different types of galleries within the art world. We've done that as well. We also offer studio visits as a second part of the program, where we place AIM fellows with curators and folks working in the art world to do studio visits. And then an important element of the second part of the program is also, which by the way is September to December. I don't think I mentioned that. Um, is also workshops that are preparing for the AIM convening, which Nell mentioned is now the capstone of this program. In addition to an exhibition every 2 years, we also have this yearly convening, which requires preparation. We don't, well, at the Bronx Museum, we do not like dictate the terms of how that convening will take place. That's up to to each individual cohort to decide what they want to do. Um, and so that convening is an important moment to share the knowledge that the cohort has with the public. I'm going to share some images here quickly. This is the Bronx Museum. This is what a session might look like. This is a group of AIM cohort, the cohort from 2 years ago. Um, again, it is a syllabus-based program. These are some images from our first AIM convening that took place uh, last spring. And so this was our first time doing this with a cohort planning and executing the convening, where in addition to having created a publication with resources for artists, they also had a panel discussion on professional development with a number of AIM alumni and other artists from New York City. They also did studio visits or little portfolio reviews with interested artists. I had mentioned that, a group exhibition with a theme established by the Bronx Museum is held roughly every 2 years, um, which aligns with the overall program goals of advancing artistic careers and developing professional skills as an artist. And in addition to the artworks presented in the shows, we also work with artists to create engaging workshops and performances, which you can see in these slides. Um, so here's our current cohort, and here's a group shot of a from the last exhibition showing members of several different AIM fellowship cohorts.
Yeah, and I'll just add again about the program in case it wasn't clear. So this really is a program based around these seminars throughout the 9 months on topics that we've identified, and then in the second part of the program, participants have an option to suggest topics they are particularly interested in. And those seminars are taught by a faculty of industry experts. So we work with people who are experts on social media practices for artists, writing artist statements, as Patrick mentioned, gallery owners of varying levels of experience at varying sizes of gallery, professional archivists. I think that's one of the greatest strengths of the AIM program is that its format allows us to bring in people who are extremely knowledgeable about these different aspects of building an artistic career to learn from.
So we as a staff um, oversee the program, and we're usually present for sessions of the AIM program, and we're the ones responding to emails and things from our current fellows. But we're not teaching the sessions. These are all, as Nell said, industry experts, artists, people coming in to teach these different sessions. Many of them have taught these sessions also for a number of years, but each year we're adding different faculty to the program. So now we wanted to talk about the AIM Fellowship application, which again is due Sunday, October 27th by 11:59 p.m. It is a submittable application. There is a link available on our website, as well as through several e-blasts that you might have received or on social media. Um, so just to go over the guidelines, and again, all of this is included within the application that you'll see, but we wanted to go over it here as well. So first of all, please read the submission instructions carefully in each section of the form. Only complete applications will be considered. Applicants are asked to submit 6 recent works, no more than 3 years old, that best represent current directions in their artistic practice. Semifinalists must be, sorry, I'll read that again. Semifinalists must be available to meet with members of the selection committee in fall 2024 for an in-person group interview. So the way in which we've done this for many years is to have group interviews of semifinalists in front of a jury of staff and also AIM alum who are part of that process. We will usually have a couple of days and different times that we'll offer, but you need to be able to be there in person for those interviews. Selected artists should be available to engage in AIM fellowship meetings and activities for the 9 month duration of the program. So it's a 9 month program again, with a summer break, but you need to be able to be present, as most sessions are taking place here at the Bronx Museum, again on Tuesdays, typically from around 6 p.m. to as late as 9 p.m. Please note that the AIM Fellowship is not a studio program. Studio studio space is not provided. It's a professional development program in a seminar format.
Great. These eligibility requirements are listed on the application. I will read them again now in case anybody has questions regarding them. And then at that point, we will turn on the chat and open it up if any of you do have questions. But to be considered eligible for the AIM Fellowship, you must be at minimum 21 years old. You must apply individually. We don't accept applications from artistic partnerships or collectives or other groups. Be an emerging artist, which we define as an artist in the early stages of creative development with 2 to 10 years actively creating and presenting new and original work in the field of visual arts, and who have yet to be substantially celebrated within their field, the media, or the public at large. Obviously, being substantially celebrated is somewhat subjective, but just in general, that 2 to 10 years about of experience we've found to be what leads people to really gain the most from this program. You must be a New York City resident at the time of application and maintain New York City residency throughout the program term. That's very important. This really is a program for people who are based in New York at the time that they're participating in the fellowship. Of course, also logistically, the sessions take place at the Bronx Museum, with a few other places in New York City. You must not be enrolled in a degree granting program in any discipline concurrent to the AIM Fellowship. We don't have requirements about what education you do or don't have, but you should not be enrolled in a degree granting program while you are participating. Not be enrolled in a professional development program concurrent to the AIM Fellowship. Not be a current employee, either full-time, part-time, or contract employee of the Bronx Museum. Not be an immediate family member or employee of a Bronx Museum board member. Not be represented by a commercial gallery, either in the United States or internationally. And due to regulations governing the distribution of stipend, honoraria, and wage payments, you must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the United States to apply and be accepted to the program. Once again, applications are due on October 27th at 11:59 p.m., so the end of the day on October 27th. And there's no application fee. I strongly suggest, if you want to wait till the end of the application period, we are currently accepting applications, so you can apply anytime between now and October 27th. I strongly suggest you try to submit before the end of the day on October 27th, just because every year somebody usually has issues with submittable, the application platform on a technical level, and the form will close as soon as it is midnight on the 28th. So just to make sure you don't run into any issues, your internet doesn't go out, etc., I strongly suggest you give yourself at least a day's window. But of course, that's at your discretion. And so I think at this point, thank you for listening to us talk a little bit about AIM, and I will enable the chat. If you have questions, you can ask them there. Okay, great. Um, Patrick, are you able to see the chat?
Yeah, so in terms of a commercial gallery, if you're represented by a gallery that represents you, it supports you, it sells your work, as opposed to perhaps like if you've shown within a gallery or perhaps have a relationship with a gallery that sometimes shows your work, or perhaps you have a relationship with like a not-for-profit space that has a gallery space. It's not as there are some times in which an artist might have a relationship with a commercial gallery, but if you are represented by a commercial gallery, for us over time, we've found that um, that individuals who have representation in galleries are not benefiting as much from this program, this specific program. Um, so I hope that answers your question. And then regarding how long it takes to take people to complete the application, that is a hard question to answer. I always suggest when doing applications like this one that you take a look at the application first, reflect on some of the questions, maybe have like a Google Doc or a Word doc or some place where you can begin to compose your answers to the written questions. And then also some people already have the amount of time it takes for you to put together your work sample might depend on how recently you've been applying for opportunities. So you might already have six works that you already know you want to use. And that part for you is the fast part, but maybe the part where you have to answer the questions might take a little longer. And I mean, for us, it is, and we'll point this out that it's very important for us to understand, for example, in the written responses, why you're interested in this particular program and this particular opportunity. We put a lot of weight in the timing for the applicant. Like, does this program make sense for this applicant at this time? Um, yeah, that's just to answer the first two questions.
Um, and I'll reread these questions in case you all aren't seeing them. So somebody asked, when you mention artists who are actively creating and presenting work, does that mean exhibiting? It can mean exhibiting, but I think it's phrased intentionally. If you consider yourself to have been actively creating and presenting work in whatever form that means to you, then you are eligible to apply. It often means exhibiting in an MFA group show or another forum like that. Maybe you've created your own opportunities to show work, but it doesn't need to mean exhibiting in any specific way.
And I
Um,
would add to that, I would just add to that real quickly that in terms of exhibiting, we've had folks apply and be accepted to this program who are exhibiting their work or showing their work in like an unconventional way. For example, doing sort of like installations in public spaces, documenting those installations. Like there's different ways in which you can think about that too. So I think it's just we see an evolution of an artistic practice. We see work that represents that, and that's what we're looking for with the application, mainly because it shows us that the applicant's work is at a place where they can really benefit from a non-studio based program that teaches more of the other fundamentals of having and sustaining a career in the arts. The other question, can I participate in a 2 week residency outside New York City during the program? So we can talk. So the short answer would be yes, but it is also important to us that a fellow is present for most of the sessions, meaning we have a pretty strict policy of, not missing more than 3 sessions. And the reason for that is that with a program like this that is a syllabus that has learning objectives, um, it's it's a problem when you're missing sessions that build on each other. We have multiple sessions geared around grant writing that are timed when certain grant applications are made available to folks. So there's a sequence to how these sessions work, and so missing that time takes away from how the program is supposed to work to achieve its goal. Um, but at the same time, we've had a number of artists who pursue, summer residency programs. Again, we do not meet during the summer. There's a lot of opportunities at that time, or folks who have had to miss 1 or 2 sessions, but it's made very clear that that is not going to be a pattern over the time that that they're named fellow.
Great. I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A too, so I'll answer some of these. You can answer, sorry, you can ask either in the Q&A or in the chat. So somebody asked, for someone totally emergent, does the selection process have a preferred format or way to capture imagery for work samples? Can candidates get support with this? I think the main criterion is just that we are able to see your work as it's uploaded. Obviously, that varies somewhat by media. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to support in individual applications with your own capturing of your images, but yeah, I think we don't mandate that they be professional quality captures of your work. Really, what's most important to us is to be able to see clearly what it is that we're looking at as far as your artwork.
And the question, I have a two-person, two-man exhibition next year. Can I still apply? I mean, that wouldn't be anything that would not, you wouldn't be ineligible if you're exhibiting while having the exhibition. Um, there's a we're drawing like there's a difference for us about being represented by a commercial gallery versus having exhibition opportunities. And certainly if you for example if you follow Bronx Museum at Bronx Museum on social media, you'll see that we actually actively promote exhibitions by our current and past AIM fellows. So we absolutely encourage folks in the AIM fellowship to be doing all those things. But I think it's more a question for you if it feels like having these really ambitious exhibition plans the next year, it might make it difficult for you to be fully invested in a 9 month program like AIM.
Yeah. I'm gonna we will answer every question we can. I'm gonna answer one that a few that seem related in terms of your commitments while you're thinking about AIM. So somebody asked, would somebody working full-time be able to take advantage of this fellowship? Would you prefer a candidate who has more flexibility in their schedule? We certainly have multiple cohort members every year who are working full-time, as well as those who have different work schedules or arrangements. Um, Also answering the question, when are the sessions? These seminars take place on Tuesday evenings. So they are intentionally designed to take place after a 9 to 5 workday, such that having a full-time job would not preclude your being able to participate. And there are never requirements for the AIM program that do take place during the workday and would conflict with that. Um, Great. Somebody else asked about the section on the application that asks you to identify if you have an affiliation with the Bronx. So they're saying that it asks if you are affiliated with the Bronx, and you can say you were born, live, or work in the Bronx, or you are not affiliated. Yes, if you have some other connection to the Bronx, or it's been meaningful to you in some way, you can certainly mention that in a written answer. But if you have a different connection that's not that's a more temporary connection, it's okay to choose I have no affiliation for that answer.
And regarding would it be possible to attend mandatory meetings virtually? We don't currently have a virtual option for attending AIM sessions.
Somebody's asking for the body of work for your artwork sample, can it be of any medium? The answer is yes. We accept AIM applications from artists working in any medium. And we just encourage you when choosing your samples for your application to choose works that you feel most strongly about, but also that you feel prepared to talk about in how they represent yourself as an artist.
So regarding do jurors prefer candidates who have an affiliation with the Bronx? It is important to us whenever possible to have a program that is representative cohort with participants from the Bronx. And in fact, almost every cohort I've seen here at the museum in my time here has had a significant um, number of Bronx-based artists. Um, and so it's definitely something that we want for our cohort. Just to speak more generally about um, like our criteria during the selection process, a lot of it is about for us is about timing. Like, is this the right time for the applicant to make the best use of this opportunity, this professional development opportunity? Which is why in the application we ask, why are you interested in participating in AIM? To demonstrate your understanding of the program, what it does, and how it fits in with what you're where you are right now in your practice. We do want to see a demonstrated commitment to an artistic practice. That's why we include the portfolio of work. Um, and then articulating these things during the interview if you make it to that semifinal point of the interview process. Um, so to articulate these things during the interview and demonstrate your understanding of what the AIM program does and doesn't do. So understanding that it's not a studio program, but that why it is that at this point in your practice you desire this training, this professional development in your practice.
How do you determine when it's an artist's right time? What are some variables that tells you it's not? I think Patrick has alluded to some of this already, but really, a lot of it is related to the fact that this is not a program that will in itself support your artistic development as you work on your body of work. Of course, our cohort members tend to do that during the AIM program, but it really is about demonstrating that you are at a point where you would benefit from the specific workshop and seminar support that we provide through the program. So being at a point where you have given thought to what you need in order to continue to build your artistic career and are feeling that that's something that the program provides. Yes, I see there's somebody who has a hand raised, so you can feel free to ask a question either in the Q&A or in the chat.
There is a question about any other way to present my work to museum except AIM program. I think we don't like the museum doesn't like solicit like proposals for exhibitions or like just however, one of the things that we we think about when we're thinking about the AIM convening, which is now the new one of the new like culminating aspects of this program, um, the the idea of having a program run by the AIM Fellows that invites artists from around New York City to come and do things like a portfolio review or meet each other and like we had like a cocktail reception, meet and greet. That stands for us as a very important opportunity for people who are not in the AIM program to come and benefit from that same community and to share their work and to learn from each other. So that's the big reason as to why we thought that was a really important thing to add.
Yeah, great. Somebody is asking, if rejected, would you be willing to provide feedback on why? Unfortunately, that's something that we just don't have the capacity to do. We receive many more applications than we're able to accept each year for a cohort of 14, and we don't have the ability to give feedback on individual applications.
And I think we might have already answered the question that someone had about, do you mean that artists who are having a show in New York City are not eligible? You are absolutely eligible if you are having exhibitions. There's a distinction between that and being represented by a commercial gallery. And so having an active exhibitions and doing things, whether they're in like a gallery space or public space or, whatever that means for you and your practice, um, that's great. That's what we want to see is that commitment to one's artistic development. Um, but yeah, so that would not be make you ineligible.
Um, Okay, somebody is saying the deadline seems far away. What if my affiliation with the Bronx changes after I apply to the program? Is there any way for people to make the changes in their applications after the deadline? There is not currently a way to revise your application. So I would, if you feel that that will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks, or that something substantial might change that you want to make sure is reflected in your application, I strongly encourage you to be prepared in what you wish to submit, but do it in the last few days that the application is open. So that again, you are able to have worked on it in the time leading up, but just in case there's something that you feel you want to make sure we know, you're able to include that.
There was a question, are the candidates allowed to have formal art credits? I don't completely understand the question. And I will, so we, as was described in the eligibility, um, you are not to be enrolled in a degree granting program or any discipline concurrent to the AIM fellowship. So it's like not, you would be ineligible if you were in, school, whether that's like graduate school or undergraduate. Um, so that would actually, but if you were taking classes, that's maybe there's like maybe a little bit of a distinction there between being a full-time student enrolled um, in a school program. Um, there's a question that's about eligibility, about being represented by someone outside the U.S. who does not have a gallery space, but operates from a home-based art office, sometimes holds exhibitions there, and occasionally participates in art fairs. Um, it my response to that would be that it does not sound like a commercial art gallery. Um, but I this is all in a we trust you in doing this application that you will reflect upon your particular circumstances and what you're doing, and just you know follow the eligibility requirements. But to me, it does not sound like a commercial gallery, and so you would be eligible.
At this point, I think we have done our best to catch up with the questions in the chat and Q&A. So of course, please feel free to keep asking, but also if we've missed something, I just ask that you re-ask now and we can get to it.
And as folks are thinking, and if there's any other questions that people have, they can add them. Um, we've gone over, about the program, what it does. We've talked about the application, the eligibility requirements, process that we do. We've offered you some insight into our selection criteria. Um, I would just add that, in experiencing this program from our side, like one of the things that comes up a lot from the fellows is that one of the things that they write about in their surveys and then their reflection on the program is that for them, one of the best parts of being an AIM is the community that it creates among the artists who are in the fellowship. So whether that's people who are in your direct cohort or people who are in past cohorts who you've met as alumni, that's something that people talk about a lot. And so I would just offer that to you as you're applying and thinking about if this is a program for you. It's not as explicit in the application or the description of the program, but building that artistic community that is like long lasting and sustaining is a big part of the AIM fellowship as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add, and then I see we are getting a few more questions that we'll get to. I would add too that when we do have restrictions about we have as Patrick mentioned, a pretty strict attendance requirement. We do have restrictions about taking on a lot of other things or being enrolled in a degree granting program while you're in the program. And a lot of that really is about the fact that, as we've seen, the benefits of AIM really are gained through going through this entire program together with a cohort, through learning through the seminars. And so we can't offer that virtually. We can't offer it as makeups most of the time. We think it's a really special and somewhat unique program in that way, but it does require this fairly intense commitment. And so I see. Can the candidate have art credits from a previous degree? Yes, as far as I'm understanding, there's no reason you can't. Again, the only real restriction that we have is, as far as education goes, is not being concurrently enrolled in a degree
Mhm.
program.
Yeah, there's no requirement about having any kind of degree to apply. So that's so yes, the answer would be yes, you can. Um, and the other question that we in a Q&A about does the professional development program concurrent to the fellowship include long-term residency in the city? Um, if that means that we're not able to offer you anything additional to the seminar-based program that we're offering, which includes weekly seminars in basically 2 terms with the summer break. Um, that's really the program. In the fall, as I mentioned, there's about a month where we're not meeting as much in person because you're engaged in studio visits with arts professionals in New York City. Um, but the majority of the program is the weekly seminars meeting at the Bronx Museum, which then ends with the convening that the AIM Fellows organize with us, and then every 2 years, an exhibition that includes usually up to 2 cohorts of AIM Fellows in a biennial format. Um, so there is nothing else that we offer in terms of residency at this time.
Yeah, if you're asking if the restriction in the guidelines means that includes if you already have or you plan to have a long-term residency in the city. Yeah, I'm not sure which one it is, but Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that no, it's not a blanket restriction on participating in some residency program. We generally have a few members of each AIM cohort who do have some kind of um, studio program that they participate in over the course of the program. Um, that restriction is somewhat broad, just to make sure that we're not excluding that. And again, it really is about ensuring that you have the ability to commit to this weekly seminar program. Somebody asked if there any way to view this recording later. Yes, we are recording it and we will be getting it on the Bronx Museum's website, hopefully within this week, in a couple days.
And also, a lot of the information we shared is available online and in the application. Um, so just so you're aware of that too.
Great. We'll definitely give it another few minutes in case other folks have questions they want to ask. And in the meantime, I think we'll just thank you again for your interest in the program and your time in coming to this info session. Again, as another reminder, applications are due October 27th, which is in just under 3 weeks. Also, just to give you a general sense of timeline again, so we'll be reviewing applications, of course, after that deadline passes. We will be sending out notifications to interview to selected candidates. That will likely take place in early December, with a final selection to come in the next couple weeks in December. Everybody should be notified of their status and whether they've been accepted to the program by early January 2025, and the program will begin in February 2025.
If you have been active as an artist for a little bit more than 10 years, are you eligible? Absolutely. Yes. Um, and the eligibility requirements, refer to like a active creating, presenting new work in a 2 to 10 year period, um, but don't feel that that's a direct cutoff. Um, and again, like what we really are looking for is how this program fits for you now, and your stated purpose of why that is. and what you're trying to get out of the program um, is what we're really looking for, and also your commitment to your artistic practice, which we find is evident in your portfolio, and um, so.
The question, which areas of professional development are you most interested in, has no word limit. Can we list the areas we are interested in or write a few sentences detailing our interests? Yes, we encourage you to be as specific as you feel able to, and yes, detail your interests in those areas.
And I would also recommend that you visit bronxmuseum.org, go to our art and artist page that has a section on the AIM program, which includes our current AIM fellows. And that current AIM fellows page will have examples of their artwork. You can read a little bit about them as artists. It'll give you, I think, a sense of what a cohort can be like and what kind of artists are seeking this program. Um, and that might also help you to kind of gauge where you feel it's right for you at this time.
Yeah, and I think I'll also share, which some of you may already be aware, but we, in every cohort, we have members who applied several times before being accepted. Sometimes it wasn't the right moment for them. Sometimes they have worked further on some aspect of their art, or they're better able to articulate why they want to do AIM now and what they would gain from it. So I just say that to encourage
Hmm.
you. If you have previously applied or if you apply for the first time this year and we're not able to accept your application, if you're interested in this program, we really encourage you to keep applying if it's still something that you think would be useful for you, because we do every year we are able to interview and often able to offer spots to people who have applied in the past.
And also, if you aren't accepted this time, I would highly recommend attending the convening that we will have either in January or February. That date will be announced very soon. And that's a day where you can come into the museum, meet the current fellows. They will have a program for the day that includes different perhaps workshops, presentations, portfolio reviews, probably a mixer for the artists, for artists to meet each other. And that's a great opportunity to not only learn more about the program, but to plug in with the Bronx Museum in general, and be part of our community. And so that's why we added, again, why we added this new big part of the program.
Yeah, and I think AIM next year is AIM's 45th year. Patrick and I have been working on AIM for about 5 of those years, and we're really excited about the convening as a way of the artists in each cohort to be able to um, give something to the public and create something public facing, and for our in the Bronx and also the New York artistic community, because we meet many wonderful artists through the application and recruitment process every year. And we just hope to be able to create a more expansive community, at least in part through the convening.
Just in response to questions in the Q&A, again, there a question related to, what are we prioritizing and looking at with artists for the program, um, having group exhibitions yearly, should I still apply? Um, I think to the question of prioritizing, like I said, it's really about seeing that you are at a place in your artistic um, like development as an artist where you have a strong portfolio and you're in a position to take the most, of this opportunity to take things to the next level, to create a sustaining career for yourself in the arts. Um, and so we're looking for both the, you know, um, having that portfolio and then also expressing why the program is important to you at this time. And exhibiting yearly, doing group exhibitions, doing these things is a demonstration of that commitment to an artistic practice. So that's absolutely, that's a very strong indicator of the commitment to a practice. So that is something that we would be looking for as well. Are there any other questions from the group? And if you did join late, we definitely will have this recording online. There were a lot of great questions. And so you might have missed a question earlier that will help you to sort of frame how you're going to approach this application or if this is the right program for you. Um, the question that just came in about, there's a question that just was asked about, is it possible to submit artworks that were previously submitted to past applications, or does the jury prefer new work? Um, I would recommend it's okay to include work that you've shown previously in an application, but as a juror, like it's always great to see that there's been an evolution in the work. So perhaps we might see some work we've seen before, but we're also seeing how you as an artist are pushing that work, so that we can see that work has continued to develop. That is something I would recommend in general to applying for things multiple years. Um, we do see your work. You might not get direct feedback from us, or you won't get direct feedback from us, but you in applying, like we've taken time to look at your work and go through your application. So when you apply in multiple years, um, we will we will pay attention to the evolution of your work. And as Nell said earlier, we'll also see if there's, changes to how you're describing what it is you hope to gain from this program as well.
Yeah, and that said, you are able to share multiple pieces. So if there is a piece that you've applied with before that you continue to feel most strongly about, I wouldn't, give you a blanket discouragement from repeating anything you've previously shown. But yes, like Patrick said, we encourage you to demonstrate that you've continued working on your artistic practice. Great. Well, if there aren't any more questions, we want to thank you again for your time and your interest in the AIM program. Again, applications are due October 27th. And again, we strongly, strongly encourage you to submit before the last hour, half hour that they're up in case you do have technical issues with Submittable, which does also have its own help platform. So in order to be able to take advantage of that, we encourage you to build in and give yourself a little time.
And I will actually, we can close with this question. Um, it's a question about interaction among fellows and how much interaction there is among fellows in the program. I'll go back to what I said earlier. One of the, Perhaps one of the most important things about this program is the development of that community within the cohort, not just becoming close to each other and supporting each other with their artistic careers, but also learning together, challenging each other. And so because it's a cohort and they're meeting together weekly, that is a big part of the learning experience of this professional development program is the cohort. Um, and so that's my answer to your question, and I think it's also a good way to close this out.
Yeah, and I think, saying that we see a community formed sounds somewhat nebulous, but we have seen it for several years. We see fellows supporting one another when they do have shows open, which is allowed during the duration of the program. They support each other and go. They visit each other's studios when they have open studios if they're in some residency program. And it's also really wonderful to see the interest that they take in one another's work and one another's media, particularly when they're working in very, very different media from one another. I think we've seen fellows really relish the opportunity to learn more about somebody's performance practice or somebody working in large scale fabrication. I think it just allows people who are working in what can sometimes be somewhat insular to return to an active practice of discussion and of really getting to bounce ideas off of others. And that can open up really fruitful ideas that they may not have considered previously. Great.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for attending this info session about the AIM Fellowship at the Bronx Museum. Again, the application is due Sunday, October 27th by 11:59 p.m. This will be available as a recording on the website, and we hope that you will apply.